language learning. Let's begin with our first speaker. Dave Dolan. Please welcome Dave Dolan, founder of Sensible VR and a lifelong educator. Dave is addressing two critical challenges in education: attention and accessibility. Through Sensible VR, Dave's helping students, regardless of their learning needs, connect with complex ideas using the power of virtual reality. His work is both pragmatic and visionary, bringing immersive tools to classrooms around the globe. Dave.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, my name is Dave. I've been an educator for about 30 plus years. I hail from Canada, I live in Japan, and I've been in EdTech since about 2008, and in VR specifically since 2016, okay? Now we'll cover a lot, so I'll just make that very quick. Okay? To me, there's too much value in VR in education that it can't be squandered. So we have to find a way to make sure that we get it into every classroom anywhere in the world. Right? And so to be able to do that, there has to be a pragmatic approach to make sure it works. But you know, we should look at why we want to have VR there in the first place. And for me, there's a few interesting facts of life right now, is that students can only focus for about 65 seconds at a time to have a sustained attention, right? That comes from Johan Hari and the research. He had a book on distraction. It takes about 23 minutes to get your mind back on track when you lose this attention. Students are bombarded by distractions constantly, okay? We can see this around us all the time. And in a study of 65,000 students, they found that a lack of agency really declined the engagement from 74% being engaged in school in 3rd grade to 26% by the 10th grade. So we have to get a way to get that back. Okay, now why is VR different? Okay, in this session or today or in other times, you're going to hear AR, VR, MR, and everybody is well aware of the different technologies. To me, VR really does stand apart because AR is really about being in that real world and having that enhanced, right? MR as well, but you still are very distracted, okay? VR is unique in that you do separate from your peers and from the world, and get into a virtual space that allows you to fully engage in that. So there's no phones, no peers, no side talk, okay? A young woman I know very well has really stressed to me that judgment-free is a really key aspect of this as well, because you're not being viewed, you're allowed to escape from that observer effect, and you can actually kind of commit yourself into your learning. So distraction-free is very important. Judgment-free is also extremely important as well. The way forward for me, okay, is that 3DOF is the smart choice on this. Because for me, I have a mandate to be able to teach everyone in every country, in every school. Here we go. So when we look at 3DOF and 6DOF, I think everybody here is aware of this. Movement is not required in the 3DOF, okay? I can be in one stationary position. 6DOF, you increase movement, which increases the likelihood or chances of injury or property damage. So safety in classrooms is high with 3DOF, lower with 6DOF. The true cost of it, and I'll work through some of that later, 3DOF can be more affordable, and it's not about the cost of the headset. It doesn't matter if it's $100 less or $300 less. There's a difference in the way that's used. And so 6DOF can be quite expensive. Space requirements, the real estate needed is high for 6DOF, and then privacy concerns. You have headsets that are connected with social media company, and they're taking your information and your data, and I have an issue with that in being able to go into schools and offer this as an item that might be connected with a social media company, whether that's Meta, Facebook, whether that's TikTok with Pico. Their business model is around data, and that's a concern for me for students and schools, okay? So 6DoF is great for gaming and entertainment, and very good for doing surgery, learning how to do welding, learning how to do very physical things. Absolutely, there's a place for it, but for the majority, in my mind, for the majority of what you learn, 3DoF can be fine. As long as you're interactive, as long as you're doing something in there, you're not just looking at pictures. That's what's been done before. That's not really helping out anybody. That's the kaleidoscope, that's the rotary phone, okay? And we don't want that. Affordability, okay? There's two ways that things are being used right now. One is class-wide, and when you go class-wide, it really changes things, okay? Because you're looking at 30 headsets and there's a high cost for this. It doesn't matter if you get a cheap 3DoF headset, but you have to get 30 headsets. That's a high bar for schools, okay? Teacher control, okay, limits the student autonomy, you know, and these offer up ways that a teacher will say, look at this, look at that, and I don't think you're really getting the value from VR. It introduces the observer effect, because you are being viewed and you are being followed. It reduces immersion, and the facilitator costs are high because there's a higher burden for teachers. There's much more to manage. If we had 30 headsets right now, somebody's not going to be online. There's going to be an issue. I'm going to be, okay, Paul, hang on, and I've got to make everybody else wait. This is too hard to manage, and I can't do that to teachers, all right? So the other way that people are using are 6DoF or device agnostic. And people talk about WebXR, okay? Your situation's different, okay? I understand about the Open University, and I'm talking about public schools, you know, in Sulu, okay? Or wherever you are, okay? If it's a poorest area, these are my people, okay? So 6DoF has the challenge of content management, because the management has to be online. You have to get a third-party management such as ManageXR, ArborXR. There's no, if you don't have full control of the device, you don't have full control of the system, right? Gaming devices go through lots of iterations, okay? There's lots of cycles, and the problem is schools cannot keep up. You know, in the short time that we've been at this, you have the Oculus Go, you have the Quest 1, you have the Quest 2, you have the Quest 3, you have the Quest, and it keeps going on and on and on, right? You cannot keep up as a school. And the facilitator costs are very high, as Shannon noted, you know, in her speech was that the setup and everything else is extremely challenging. A majority of schools are online. That's a little better. Okay, that's what the thought is. I was in China a few years ago, and they said, Dave, you don't understand, 95% of schools are online. I said, listen, I come from Canada, 100% of schools are online, and you're not going to be able to move these content pieces. They're way too heavy, right? Especially over mass students. Third-party management of content online, okay, a managed content solution is fraught with challenges. Now, Lenovo had their 3DoF Classroom 2 solution, and the problem they ran into was they had a managed content solution, not on the headset. And then some people will challenge this by saying, well, I can set up a local router, I can do this. Listen, if you've been in the field, and I've been in classrooms in Japan, in China, in Sri Lanka, in South Africa, in Germany, in Canada, and Mexico, I've been in classrooms everywhere. It does not work, okay? So it works in the office, I can set that up, I can teach you how to do, and it will not be used, okay? So the problem is that about 13% of the world, you know, is in a, let's say, a developed country. You know, if you're talking about Canada, Japan, US, you know, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, that accounts for about 13% of the population, okay? I have to teach 100% of the population, okay? So I have to teach students that are in Vietnam, who are in Peru, who are everywhere else. And so that's the burden that I need to hold, because I can't put that burden on the educator in that area. So, don't burden teachers. Everybody here is a teacher. You should like this slide, okay? So, again, somebody has to own the burden. So it's either going to be me setting that up, or I'm going to pass that on to you, right? So complex setups, you know, using a phone to set up a headset, to have accounts and everything else, just doesn't work. And my star teacher would not be the tech teacher who's in every school. There's always one or two tech teachers that love this. I want Mrs. Applebaum. I've been talking about Mrs. Applebaum for years, okay? She's 60 years old. She had emails for over a month now, so she's getting kind of technical. I want Mrs. Applebaum to say, Paul, use that thing. Okay, good. Okay, go. All right? That's it. You don't need to put a burden on teachers to try to figure out and have lots of PD, have to figure out how to use this and find ways, okay? Built-in assessment. Somebody had a question about assessment this morning. We've been delivering this for years, so this is nothing new to me. So assessment is great because every teacher wants to know what's happening in the VR. So they wrongly ask, can you multicast that so I can see inside, okay? And I say the same thing as Shannon. I say, okay, when you send your students to the library, do you go and say, okay, are you page 27? And every teacher says, I would never do that. Why do you need to do that with VR? Okay? But there needs to be a bit of connective tissue. And the connective tissue is the assessment. So the assessment is done in the environment. And if you have a small amount of Wi-Fi, okay, and even a teacher's hotspot on their phone, your kilobytes of information just gets back into the platform. So the teacher is well aware that, like, Colin got 42% on geography, I can talk to him, okay? Lena got 80%, she's fine, okay? So that is that connection between student and teacher. You have to make sure that you've got that, okay? VR belongs in every school, okay? There's too much value here, okay? Students are distracted. They need a chance to be able to have that focused concentration. So if I've got them for 8 or 10 minutes, locked into whatever it is, photosynthesis, right? They do not care about anything else. They're only locked into this, and that is gold for me as a teacher, okay? So I need to get that into their hands some way. So immersive, focused, distraction-free, judgment-free, these are all very important parts of the VR. It needs to be designed for education and not for entertainment, okay? They're two very different things, okay? And the headsets are the same. Like if you're using a gaming headset, it's designed for gaming, and we're trying to, you know, edify it, okay? We should gamify education, but not edify technology, okay? And so a global solution which is practical, feasible, and sensible, okay? We have to look at this holistically in looking that you're going to solve all of the issues and not just try to get something and let's look for content now, let's bolt this on. There has to be ways to do this, all right? So the way to do this, okay? What's needed in my mind would be high quality 3DOF headsets, okay? They have to be 4K, capable of interactivity, so I'm working and I'm doing something and I'm learning by doing. Offline usage. So the way to be able to do this is to preload the headsets, okay? And this is what we do. So you have a ton of content, get it preloaded at the factory, and send them out so that nobody has to try to load these. Lots of good curriculum-ready content. People talk about curriculum-aligned content. I've been delivering curriculum-aligned content for about 8 years. Curriculum-ready is good because I need to know if I'm teaching photosynthesis, this matches what I'm doing. And as I've said to teachers all over the world, you can teach 90% of photosynthesis. You're a great teacher. But that 10% at the end, I can take that student into the plant and I can have them feel what it is to be chlorophyll, okay? And that's the part that you get, that's the unique part you get with VR. to do this too, I think that we have to promote individual usage and not, because it's not a collaborative event. Some can be when you use it with, engage, right? And you are collaborating. But the value to me for VR is that it is the individual in a very self-directed, self-paced manner taking care of themselves, right? It's a wonderful environment to be able to immerse yourself and lose yourself. It needs to be usable by all students, okay, including special needs. So I've been after special needs for years now. Okay, this is my buddy Tsubasa, okay? And Tsubasa has a CP, okay? And I've known Tsubasa only since 2008. So, I mean, only for about the last 17 years, okay? So I've watched him grow up. And so Tsubasa's in a chair. He's able to move his index finger. And so with a single controller, with a trigger, I'm able to get that. I'm able to get him to do some things, right? And this is wonderful because he can now go to the Burj Khalifa. He can now understand maybe photosynthesis better. He can do things that he could never do before. So to me, Tsubasa is I forget the name of your young guy, okay? But he's my guy, okay? You have to have respect for student privacy and security, okay? And absolutely. It has to be an attainable price point. It has to, schools don't have millions of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. So you have to do in a way that can be in that school that the kind of per usage cost is minimal, almost nothing. So that's where you can drive it, and that's how you can get it into. My friend Satendra here and I delivered into a very poor area in India called Nagaland, about 900 headsets, okay? Dirt floor, okay? No internet connectivity, one little extension cord for power, right? And so we were able to deliver all of those into 47 schools in that state. And they'd have a chair and you just put at the end of the day, put the headsets on the chair, plug that in, put the generator on, come back, and you're using it tomorrow. So those students are using VR in practical, good, useful ways. And they're doing labs, chemistry labs or whatever, that they cannot afford a physical lab, but they can afford this, okay? And that is what I'm doing, okay? So, and finally, low burden, okay? You cannot burden the teachers, IT staff, or admin, okay? The teachers need something easy to use. The IT staff doesn't want to be running down, setting up headsets all the time and moving content. They need to have an easy life, okay? And admin needs to know that their money is being spent correctly, it's not too high on the budget, and that there's efficacy that I can see. They don't mind spending the money if it's reasonable, if it's actually being used and actually being effective, okay? So this is what I'm after, and this is what I've been doing for some time. And so I'd be very happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. We're